Chapter 5, Leading with the Head and the Heart. Objectives. Identify how mental models and mindsets guide your behavior and relationships. Explain the benefits of challenging one's thoughts and beliefs to consider alternate perspectives. Explain the importance of emotional intelligence, including self-awareness, emotional regulation, personal motivation, empathy, managing relationships for effective leadership. Differentiate between motivating others based on fear, motivating others based on love. Leading with the head and the heart. Whole leaders use both their head and their heart. They use their heads for organizational issues. They use their hearts for human issues. Current issues: how to give people a sense of meaning and purpose. How to make employees feel valued and respected. How to keep morale and motivation high. So when you find good leaders, I never knew exactly what it was. I didn't know how to define it. I knew it when I saw it. So when you see them, they use their heads for organizational issues. They use their hearts for human issues. It's one thing that I have noticed throughout the years, many years of training and meeting different leaders and stuff. A lot of them do use their head, but a lot of them, many people fail to use the heart. And when I seen that, they view when you use the heart as being weak. And it is totally not the case. It makes you human. And realistically, it's not the head is how you connect with people, it's through the heart. Current issues: how to give people a sense of meaning and purpose, how to make employees feel valued and respected, how to keep morale and motivation high. That's by using the heart. That's not by using the head. Mental models, theories people hold about specific systems in the world and their expected behavior. Elements of a system. Do you have a mental model that you would enable you to connect with these four elements to produce a light? So we're going to talk about these systems and models. A system is any set of elements that interact to form a whole and produce a specified outcome. A mental model helps leaders attain the desired outcome by arranging the key elements in the system. So you see the difference between the two. So a system is any set of elements that interact to form a whole, and the mental model helps leaders attain the desired outcome by arranging the key elements in the system. So when you look at Google leaders' mental model, they have one, and Google is a very successful company. And what they use is this: stay uncomfortable. Let failure coexist with triumph. Use little less management than you need. Defy convention. Move fast and figure things out as you go. So you see, this is a model where it's viewed as the work environment is a learning environment. And we focus on learning and triumph, not failure. And that is a difference between some organizations who are successful and people like working there versus some organizations where people don't like working there and they have low morale and they have high turnover, because one focuses on learning and triumph, the other focuses only on failures. Assumptions. Assumptions are part of a leader's mental model about events, situations, circumstances, and people. Assumptions are dangerous if they are accepted as truth. Questioning assumptions can help leaders understand and shift their mental models. So when we look at the assumptions, everybody has them. The difference is, are you making decisions based on assumptions? And when leaders do this, you may get some things right, but I can honestly tell you, you're going to get some things wrong too, and that could be catastrophic. Assumptions are dangerous when they're accepted as the truth. Assumption. So I'm going to give you some other words for it. My instinct, my gut feeling, my sixth sense. No. When it comes to making leadership decisions, you have to make sound decisions based on logic and fact. You can have assumptions, but they ultimately have to lead you to where you can come up with something that actually makes sense and not something that's intangible like an emotion or something to how you feel. Changing or expanding mental models. Leaders' mindset is key in organizational success. Greatest factor in success of leaders and organizations is the ability to change or expand one's mental model. Because you know why it is the greatest factor in success of that? It's because they're versatile. They understand my mental model may not be the mental model I use for everything. It can be situational, and they don't mind adjusting. Organization is vulnerable if the leader's mental model is obsolete. So if you don't have one, or if you have one and you refuse to change it, you can run into problems within an organization. Changing or expanding mental models. The ability of managers to appreciate and influence individuals, groups, organizations, and systems that represent different social, cultural, political, institutional, intellectual, and psychological characteristics. So when you're changing mental model, here's one of the things you'll find is you don't have blinders on. You realize there's a lot of variables and a lot of factors that come in there. And you can appreciate that all these different things coming at you in way of diversity in all these different things. And understanding that, you know what, there's no one way to do stuff. And based upon the different external variables and of diversity may determine the mental model that you need to have. Developing a leader's mindset. So we have mindfulness and open-mindedness. Now we're going to take a look at each one of these to see there's difference. The rise of mindfulness. Mindfulness means paying attention to what is happening in the present moment with a sense of acceptance without judging things as good or bad. So being mindful, you've heard this, being mindful of others. So when you have this, you're being mindful. Things can come to you and you don't judge it one way or the other. You are accepting of these things because people are different, situations different, and things are different. And the crucial thing here is not judging. Usually that's where people go wrong. They're not mindful because they're judging from the very beginning. As soon as you tell them something, they in their mind, they determine is it good or bad. And that's not what you do when you're mindful. Mediation. Simple mediation. When you think in terms of simple mediation, this is something that helps a lot of leaders gain perspective and helps them get their focus. Find a quiet place where you won't be distracted. Sit upright in a comfortable chair. Close your eyes and relax your body. Bring your full focus to your breathing. Don't try to control your breathing. Just breathe naturally while focusing your attention on your inhaling and exhaling. Do this for at least 10 minutes, building up to 20 minutes with repeated practice. If your mind wanders, bring the focus back to your breathing. Assume a passive attitude. Don't judge how well you are doing. Practice the technique once or twice daily. Some people who work in environments that are extremely stressful, that I've had the privilege to work with, they have to find something that helps them hit the reset button during the course of a day or during the course of a week. Mediation is one of the ways it is done. Not only is this done in the workplace, but you also find some of the great sports heroes of all time will tell you that they found ways to mediate to help them to cope with the stress and the vigors of their careers and what they do. Open-mindedness. Pike syndrome illustrates the power of conditioning that limits thinking and behavior. Openness. Putting aside preconceptions and suspending beliefs and opinions needed for learning, referred to as beginner's mind. So when you open-minded, you may have preconceptions and stuff, but you can suspend those preconceptions and those beliefs and those opinions to listen to what somebody's telling you. Versus you already saying, well, they're going to tell me, but your mind is already made up. This is how people advance their learning. This is how people who are experienced and senior and been in a position for a long time, how they can continue to grow because they're open-minded. Emotional intelligence. This is something that, as this word has not, it seems like in the last 10 years it's come out a lot. You hear it a lot, but it's been around for a while. But I am going to tell you, this is one of the biggest reasons why leaders are not successful today. And it's because We actually have tests out here now where you can measure people's emotional intelligence, and it's referred to as EQ when you look at the emotional intelligence, and to measure that. And people who are high in emotional intelligence a lot of time are your better leaders. People who are low in emotional intelligence, a lot of times they're your worst leaders or leaders that struggle, particularly when it comes to dealing with people. Now, what is this? What are emotions? Leaders with high emotional intelligence are more effective. Leaders should understand the range of human emotions. High emotions manifest themselves. So when people have this high emotional intelligence and they understand it, they understand people are humans, and they understand people have emotions and stuff. And what they do is they understand their emotions and that of others, and how emotions work in others. Positive and negative emotions. Now, this is where you look at this is one of the things I've always told people when I train leaders. Emotions can work for you. You always hear people, don't get emotional. Don't get emotional. Don't let emotions come into play. Well, that's partially right. Yeah, because that applies to negative emotions. Guess what? Positive emotions help you in your job. And some of the people that you can see who are good at that, people who are in sales, people who are motivational speakers, people who are good leaders in critical situations, they understand the ability to use positive emotions to help them do their job, to help you feel good about what you do. Imagine being someone in a predicament at work, at your job, and you're in a bad place, but your manager comes to you and they display positive emotions versus negative emotions. And they encourage you, they uplift you, and they tell you how much they believe in you, and they tell you how they believe that you made a mistake, but you'll learn from it and you'll be better. Versus you made a mistake, and I can't believe you made a mistake. I told you before how to do this. I can't believe you got this wrong. What's wrong with you? Are you an idiot? Two polar different ways of dealing with the same situation, and I can guarantee you're going to get two different outcomes. Emotional intelligence and earning power. Now, if this nothing I've said about emotional intelligence gets your attention, this should get your attention right here. People who are high in emotional intelligence make more money. People who are in high intelligence are more successful. Subsequently, they make more money. They have more earning power. Look at the graph. When you see least expressive people, you see worst at reading emotions, they earn less. They're not as good, they're not as valued, and they're not as coveted as people who can read emotions, people who are expressive, people who can make people feel good even in a bad situation. Those are the kind of leaders who are coveted and they're in demand. Why are emotions important? Because emotions are contagious. Emotions influence performance. Emotions may require hard work. Why are emotions? Because they are contagious. Listen, as leaders, people take their cues and their lead from the leaders. If you have positive emotions as the leader, they will have positive emotions. Others around you. You can influence performance if you understand emotions. How to use the positive emotions to influence and performance. When you tell somebody and you build them up, you build somebody up through using positive emotions. This is how you get somebody to improve. Emotions may require hard work. Yes, they may require hard work, and particularly for people who are not naturally wired that way. Everybody's not wired to be high in EQ or to express emotions. And I'll give you an example. If you take someone who's kind of has a dry personality, good person, good employee, but a dry personality and not a very people person. Not quite an introvert, but just not a people person. That'll be difficult. That'll be a little harder for them than it would be for somebody who's wired polar opposite. So if we look here at positive leadership and performance. So let's look at from toxic all the way to caring. If you notice, as you see, what happens when we look at the employee effort. As we look at toxic, we can see where the green is, where the employee effort is when it's toxic. That's the worst. We can see it goes up a little bit with fear, antagonistic, impersonal, collaborative, and see caring's at the very top. This is why you want the right type of leaders in your organization. You don't need to go out and hire a bunch of drill sergeants from the military who train basic trainees to come in and run your organizations like they're working with basic trainees. Because realistically, that's not what's needed. That would be viewed as a toxic or a fearful environment. And your employees will rebel, and you'll probably start having attrition problems. Components of emotional intelligence. We see behavior and awareness. Let's look at self and others. So when we look at components of emotional awareness, self-awareness, emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, self-confidence. So emotional self-awareness and accurate know thyself. Know your own emotions. Be in tune with that. And what I mean is, if I have a bad night because my wife and I had a falling out, and I come to work the next day and I'm emotional and I take it out on people, that's not a good thing. If I had a bad night with my wife and I come to work the next day, my employees should never know I had a bad discussion with my wife. So you have to know yourself, and then have self-confidence. And then others, social awareness, empathy, organizational awareness, service orientation. When you're dealing with other people, you have to understand empathy. Empathy is when you share in someone's situation or in their sorrow or what's going on with them. Organizational awareness. I always say you have to learn to read the tea leaves. Know your environment. Organizational, what's going on with the organization. Service orientation. Are you out to be helpful to others? Does everything have to benefit you, or can it also benefit others? Or can you do something sometimes that doesn't benefit you that benefits others? Self-management, the behavior side, is having the self-control, knowing to be conscientious of how I feel. I feel bad today, but I'm not going to show that. Relationship management is development of other, inspiring leadership, influence, the communication, the connecting. This is where that heart thing comes in again. And this is how you bond with people, and this is how you build teams. Leading with love versus leading with fear. Leading with love, contemporary approach. So when we look at it, we see more effective. And when used, the organizational success depends on the people's knowledge, mind power, commitment, creativity, and enthusiasm. Leading with fear, traditional approach, powerful motivator. Used when the organizational success depends on people following orders. Drives people to organizations. People do not perform to their real capabilities. So when you lead with fear, people do not perform to their real capabilities. When you lead with love, people perform to their real capabilities. Plain and simple. You get a better employee, you get a better output. Fear in organizations. Workers may fear failure, change, personal loss, judgment, and the boss. Fear creates avoidance behavior. So for people who believe that fear is the best way to lead, they're mistaken. And if they're thinking they're getting good results or whatever else, what they don't realize, the results could be better if they didn't lead with fear. But when people are motivated by fear, they don't enjoy what they do. And people who don't enjoy what they do ultimately don't stay where they are. They will go somewhere else. Indicators of love versus fear in organizations. So fear-driven indicators. And let's look at them. We see caution and secrecy, blaming, attacking, excessive control, sideline criticalness. Tips for introverts. Now this is something right here where you have to understand. This is because someone is wired different. Let's say that you're an extrovert and you're open, make friends, socialize, whatever else. Now let's say that you have an introvert who works for you or work with you. This is some tips how you deal with them. Openness and authenticity, even when it's difficult. Understanding diverse viewpoints, expecting others to do great things. Involvement and discernment. Keeping perspective. Interpersonal connection. Resistance, out and open, explore. So you have to connect with them differently because they're wired different. Doesn't make them bad. It makes them different. So you have to be different. As leaders, you're the one who have to make the adjustments, not the followers or the direct employees. Bringing love to work binds people for a shared purpose through positive forces, attracts people to take risks, learn, grow, move the organization forward. Love should be translated to action. So when you're looking at this is how you bring people together. And if depending upon what type of work you do, this could be extremely important. Some people work in industries and they have careers where it's involving potentially life and death or harm to others. This is very important because you want to build a connection with people of trust, and you want people to learn and grow, and they can't be afraid because someone's life or health or welfare could depend upon it. The practical aspects and outcomes of caring about others. So let's look at what do you do when you care for someone. And I'll let you go through those individually. There's a lot of those. And what does it feel like to be cared about? And see, one is what you do when you care about something. The other is how you feel when somebody does it for you. Read through those and you'll see that they make sense. Why followers respond to love. Fear-based motivation. Motivation based on fear of losing job. Love-based motivation. Motivation based on feeling valued in the job. You see the difference. One is based on fear of losing job. The other is based on feeling valued in the job. One is a place that you probably don't like where you work or don't like the culture or the vibes. The other is a place where you feel valued and you probably like to go to work. And you enjoy who you work for and who you work with. Why followers respond to love. Meets unspeaking employee needs. Hear and understand them. Disagree without making them wrong. Acknowledge their greatness within them. Remember to look for their loving intentions. Tell them the truth with compassion. And see, that's one of the things right there. There's a mistake, a fallacy that some people think. When you lead with love, you now are leading as a weak leader. So no, when you lead with love, one of the things you can tell, for instance, when you have somebody that does something wrong, you can tell them that they've done something wrong. And you can tell them the truth, but you're not telling them in a way that someone who's leading by fear. And I'll give you an example. If someone's leading by fear and they tell somebody they've done something wrong, it's like, I can't believe you did it wrong. I told you before, I'm going to write you up and I'm going to punish you and I'm going to do all these other things to you. You're an idiot. Versus, hey, I see you didn't get that right. So let me show you the right way to do this. And now you show me how to do it. Okay, you got it? You good? All right, so let's go. Two totally different ways of handling it. One viewed it as a failure, as a screw up. The other viewed it as an opportunity to learn and teach and coach. So this is why when it comes to leading with love and compassion, but you can be truthful too. And you can disagree without telling them that they're wrong and stupid and dumb and that they messed up. So during this chapter, we discussed the mental modes, the systems thinking, developing the leader's mind, the mindfulness, emotional intelligence, fear, love, positive leadership, leading with love versus leading with fear, while followers respond to love. If I would mention one thing in here that I would tell you that I really put a lot of emphasis on is emotional intelligence. And that is understanding one's own feelings, thoughts, and beliefs, and being able to relate to others' feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. That is very powerful today, and good leaders all strive to perform with high emotional intelligence. That concludes this chapter.